So I wanted to speak about sex as a form of shadow work, transmuting shame into bliss, and just sex in a spiritual context. I listen to the news all the time, and no, I'm not talking about the Matrix news. I'm talking about the Ascension news. I'm listening to you guys. I'm listening to all you channelers who are on YouTube a lot, and I'm really grateful for all y'all. And I've heard a couple of you speaking about sexual pleasure and presence and its theme in the 8-8 portal, and I wanted to speak on it too. As someone who is both male and female, my relationship with my sexual self has been deeply evolving lately in a very, very healing, transformative, and interesting way. I've been tapped into the energies of deep family, love, at the root and core of sexual energy and sexual presence, light energy, light presence. I've been thinking about the life force. I've been thinking about water as life, Yoni. I've been thinking about semen as life, semen as light, breast milk as life and as light. And as someone who neither has breasts nor a penis that produces semen, it's been really beautiful to be on the receiving end energetically of these energies, receiving bliss, receiving nourishment. When I think about in a sexual context and in sexual fantasy and sexual play as something that is holy and sacred and of light at its root. I only have sex with myself physically, and energetically, I've been having sex with light and giving myself my sexual desires through fantasy. And I also don't watch porn. So it's been very healing and clarifying to have such an open space for my own fantasies to be realized on the etheric planes, and for my body to be the sole receiver of orgasmic bliss, and allowing my mind to go to safe, sacred places of desire, and recognizing that lust is not an energy that is bad. It can flip into greed when it's uncontrolled or not seen in the depths and the light side of what it is. That's the shadow aspect, perhaps, of lust, would be greed. And, dehumanization, cutting off the sexual experience that is lusted after from the human who one may be having it with. So that's the shadow side of lust. But as I've been exploring my lust as someone who is going through a male puberty, someone who's taking testosterone for the first time in his life, I have been allowing myself to experience it deeply and fully. There was a period in my transition where I wasn't allowing orgasm for myself, or I was monitoring it to only on the weekends, or only once a week, or every other week. It was like I was playing with these different allowances of sexual pleasure in my life because I was getting distracted sometimes by masturbating so much. All right, that's what it is. That's what it was. And I had a good friend who's also trans say to me, also non-binary, say, yo, receive your pleasure. Like, receive pleasure. You're not a cis man. You don't need to know fab. You're a magical trans being, and you need to be channeling that energy and allowing it to move through you. Had a couple seer friends say that. So as I've been now allowing sexual energy back into my life, I've been studying it and releasing shame around my fantasies, and recognizing that at the root of the fantasies that I currently have in my life, it is a feeling of deep, deep, deep love, unconditional love, safety, being seen, feeling close, family, of light, presence. that's at the root of the sexual fantasies that I've been having, and this feeling of being so completely worshipped by a man and having his worship of me reflect all of masculine energies worshiping of the divine feminine is something that I just tapped into this very hour. And I will always have a yoni. I'm not getting bottom surgery. And as I fall in love with my divine feminine, with my physical manifestation of that, my yoni, as a trans man, who's also non-binary and interdimensional, as I fall in love with my yoni, my divine feminine essence, and the only part of my body that now reflects my divine femininity, I'm realizing that the entire masculine realm, masculine energy, is deeply in love with the divine feminine. The worshiping of the divine feminine by the divine masculine is so immense and intense and in abandon, complete abandon, like without forgiveness is the feeling is the words that keep wanting to come out, which means there's nothing to forgive. It's so full on. It's so divine. It's so real. It's so all-encompassing. Omnipresent is the masculine's worship of the feminine. That sometimes it can get turned into an obsession, which is lust. And then the resentment of that obsession and that lust is what created the toxicity of the patriarchy in its simplified version. Women are so powerful as magnets and conductors of energy. The divine feminine is. Femininity is like a bee to a flower. The divine feminine radiates openness, fragrance, beauty, lusciousness, life, nourishment, and that is love. So as someone who is now coming into his own masculinity, it's incredible to be understanding deeper the dynamics of the divine feminine and the divine masculine in their, what's the opposite of shadow aspects, in their light aspects. And to be unashamed of my participation in both sides of that divine dance as someone who is now holding a much more masculine embodiment and moving through society in a much more masculine role, which feels divine. Finally, yay! Didn't know it's what I needed all this time. But as somebody who is also, because of that, now able to tap into the true mystery and reverence for the feminine, whereas before it was like femininity was rammed down my throat. I didn't want to be a woman and it hurt so bad. I was just trying to run away from it. Now, as someone who is allowed masculine embodiment, my experience with the feminine is consensual. I now consent to my own femininity and to my own worship of femininity, and relearning how everything is the divine feminine. And it's like the divine masculine is the disciplined container to hold all the wonder of the world inside. It's like focusing on my consciousness, raising my consciousness so that I can be a good man, a good masculine container for all the beauty and perfection of feminine creativity and creation. And there is a vulnerability in something that is so transparent, so raw, so real. There is a vulnerability in that. And so my masculine side then has the opportunity to protect and hold that dear, hold that safe and sacred, hold boundaries. Boundaries, one time for boundaries. So this is what I'm learning right now. These earpods are dying. I'm gonna tap out for the evening. I love you. Bless your soul. Subscribe if you vibe. See you soon.